Hi, everybody. Good morning. It's me, Sabrina from Make It Make Sense. And today's episode is going to be a tough one for me, but we're going to get through this. So, first of all, let me apologize by saying that it's been a minute since I've been on, and I guess it's back to me doing this alone. Those of you who have followed me in the beginning before we were Make It Make Sense and we were playing with matches, it was me and I brought in people, to co-host with me or to be on the panel, and that seemed to work out just fine. And Make It Make Sense was something that I started with some other people, and unfortunately, as it happens, things fall off. People, life gets to lifing, and it gets in the way. But I promise you, I appreciate your support and those followers here, especially in the 478 that have asked us about when Make It Make Sense is going to be back. We're going to be back. I promise you. I'll be back. I promise. So, as always, we are taking callers, but today's, like I said, a special episode. I dropped my boyfriend off at work because, well, his truck's in the shop, and it's been in the shop for, it's only been, I think, 3 weeks, but man, it seems like it's been an eternity, especially for him, I'm sure. And on my way back, I was thinking about my daughter's passing, which is going to be her anniversary tomorrow. And every year I do something to remember her, and this year it's going to be this year. What else could I do that'd be more of a tribute than in more of a way to honor her than tell her story? At least the story of her passing, and the day that definitely changed my life. So I'm just going to dive right into it, and bear with me because it's going to be gut wrenching and emotional, and maybe it'll resonate with somebody and maybe it doesn't. But either way, Krista's story is worth telling. So, my daughter Krista she was born August 6, 1991. And she was born with special needs. And, um, yeah, so she had some health issues from the very beginning. She's always had health issues. June 30th, 2019, she was in the hospital fighting off pneumonia. And I'm in Macon, Georgia. She was in Newark, New Hampshire. Or I'm sorry, Newark, New Jersey. And my ex called me from the hospital, and he said that she was having a terrible time fighting off pneumonia. And we're used to it. Krista was, like I said, she's always had issues with health. And once you get pneumonia, you're always susceptible to it. Now, Krista, again, let me digress for a moment. She was born with special needs, and Krista was, shoot, having a child with special needs, if anybody has had that, it honestly makes you a better person. It really does. You see life, you see the world through different eyes. You have to in order to make them the best that they can be. And that's what my job was just make Krista the best she could be. So she got sick. We admit her into the hospital. My ex called me from the hospital and said that she was having problems breathing and she wasn't able to fight. She wasn't able to fight the sickness off. And they suggested sedating her so our body wouldn't have to work so hard to keep breathing and to keep, to heal and stuff. It sounded like a good idea. It sounded like the best. I mean, you trust doctors. So after some convincing with Krista, we convinced her, you're just going to go to sleep for a little bit, wake up. Kept it as simple as we could. We sedated her. And this was on June 30th. It was on a Sunday. I remember when he let me know. And then about a week later, she was sedated longer than she should have been. And about a week later, my ex informed me that she's not getting better. Her organs are shutting down. So what do? I jump on the first flight I can and I fly to Newark, New Jersey. I was broke. I had no money. My boyfriend at the time, which we're no longer together, and I will give him this. We weren't meant to be together, but he came through for me when it was tough. I mean, he let me tell you, if I can ever thank anybody, I need to thank I need to thank it. He had a friend. I remember his name as being Eddie up in Newark, New Jersey, and he was a Marine Corps buddy of my ex, and um, I had no place to stay. Like I had no money, I had no place to stay. This was not expected. I mean, it wasn't expected at all. So you know how emergency flights are, and then you got to find not just emergency flights. You got to find accommodations, and you got to have food and all this stuff. I had no money. My ex, his name is Brian, made a call to his friend Eddie and said, "Hey, if you're still in New Jersey, my girl's daughter's in the hospital, and she needs a place to stay." I stayed with complete strangers. When I hit New Jersey, they picked me up at the airport. I had no idea who they were. They gave me a car to drive and a bed to sleep in so I could spend time with my daughter. Unbelievable people. If they ever listened to this, him and his I stayed with his daughter. They were absolutely the most amazing people I've ever met in my life to open their home to a complete stranger. I slept in in Eddie's daughter's son's bed for days. So I arrive in New Jersey, and the first thing I do is go to the hospital and see Krista. So I arrive, and Krista's in bed. She's got tubes all through her, and breathing tubes and feeding tubes, and she's been sedated for over a week now. And what had happened is the pneumonia had progressively gone from one lung, she had double pneumonia, so in both lungs, and then she had MRSA, which is you probably people know more about it than I really know about it, but it's an infection that got into both her lungs as well. They called it at the time. They called it the super flu. If you ask me now, I believe it was probably the onset of COVID. We just didn't know any better. This was again July 2018. So I show up at the hospital. She's got breathing tubes, and um, I'm Fred, my ex Fred. I'm going to say his name is Fred. Fred. Anyways, yeah, parents named him Fred. Anyways, my ex Fred was at the hospital with his wife, and he, he told me he was there. I was there with two different doctors, and one doctor said it's grim. It doesn't look good. The second doctor said that there's hope. We can rally. She's going to rally. It looks good. It could look good. Well, I was optimistic, and mind you, let me go back a little bit. Before I had arrived, my ex is Catholic, and he did have the priest come in and read Krista her last rites, which turned me upside down because if somebody's sedated, you don't know what they can hear and what they can't hear. And I wasn't throwing in the towel on my daughter, and nobody would. So, anyways, I show up and my hair's on fire because I want to know what the hell's going on with my daughter. And Fred was always so dramatic. It was always the end of the world. No matter what happened, it was, I don't know how he lived off this, but I'm not saying anything bad about Fred. It was just the way he was. He was just very dramatic. I'm more of a realist, and I have to see it, touch it, feel it. And there's no way that I was going to lose my daughter. Absolutely none. Well, I show up and I'm dealing with Fred, and I've got his wife in the lobby outside my daughter's room, who is crying and sobbing because, Krista's in the hospital, and I'm beside myself. And Fred's like, "Yeah, we have to accept the fact that she's going, her organs are shutting down." It's like, first of all, we don't have to accept anything because Krista's a fighter. She's fought her whole life. Second of all, stop your whining, stop your crying, get the hell out of my daughter's room. And because if she can hear us, we're not going to sit here. We're not going to let her know that it's just not optimistic. It's not positive. And one doctor was saying one thing, another doctor said the other, and they literally, one doctor said, "Nope, she can rally for you. She's going to come through. Things she can still be turned around." The other doctor's like, "It doesn't look good." And I'm like, "How are you guys in the same room? This doesn't make sense. Make this make sense. It doesn't make sense at all." Anyways, I got the reading from the doctors. I got rid of Fred and his wife, which were just aggravating at the time. And I'm sorry to say it like this, but as I'm telling the story, I'm just remembering how pissed off I was because, I mean, first of all, it's my daughter, and it becomes about everybody else. It doesn't become about Krista. It becomes about everybody else. And Krista was, I mean, she was still alive. She was in the room. Yeah, she had tubes hooked up to her, and yeah, at the time, I don't want to believe what they were telling me, but yeah, you sit outside my daughter's room and cry. And, I'm thankful for the stepmother being there, because if that's what it was, I don't have any animosity, but again, I'm getting a little bit angry about it, just remembering. Stop bawling. You're not here to cry over Krista. You're here to, I wanted to know what was going on. And then they sit in the room, then they have enough gold to sit in the room and talk about her like she's not there. And that was the other thing that kind of made me mad as well. So I show up, I'm talking to my mom on the phone. My mom's in Vermont. My sister Ginger, who was absolutely instrumental to me. I mean, she was the best there was. I couldn't ask for better family support than my sister Ginger. Now, let me digress a little bit more. So let me tell you a little bit more. So I had my daughter Kristen, and I had my son Charles, and you've heard Charles on Make It Make Sense. And Charlie had just graduated from college, and he drove cross country to California to his new job, and he had just arrived in California. He graduated in May, arrived in California in July. So within 2 months of him leaving the East Coast, he was on the West Coast, and his sister got sick. So we had talked to him a little bit about it, but we kind of, he had just arrived in California, and until we had everything together, we weren't going to tell Charlie a whole bunch. I mean, he was just arrived in California, just graduated college, he drove cross country. There was a whole bunch of kind of went along with this. So back to Krista's hospital room. Finally, I get rid of everybody because it's just too much. And I showed up with books and pictures of our dogs. My ex packed me like a whole care package when I went. And I FaceTimed my mom and I FaceTimed my sister Ginger. And we talked. Well, I mean, I talked to Krista. I read to her every day. Her favorite book was Green Eggs and Ham. I read that to her 900 times. I read her stories. I talked to her. I wrote her letters. I talked to her about the dogs. And she rallied for me. I mean, like, she rallied. Like, all of a sudden, she started getting better. And I arrived on Tuesday. And I was due to fly out that Thursday. And unless she took a turn for the worse, then my plan was to stay. But this girl turned around for me. I mean, matter of fact, they had to do dialysis on her kidneys. And the day that I was leaving, which was on a Thursday, I spoke to the person that was doing dialysis, and she said there's no permanent damage done to kidneys. This is all going to be okay. I really believed in my heart that she was going to come out of it. Doctors, I mean, her vitals were looking good. She was getting more oxygen. I spoke to her. I mean, she rallied for me. As a matter of fact, I went home the second day I was there on a Wednesday. Eddie, and he was there with his daughter, and I came back and they were drinking Coronas, and I went in. I had a drink I had drank some beers with him and then went to sleep. And the next day I was leaving. So it was on a Thursday, and I went and I spent as much time with her as I could. And then the person that was doing her dialysis kicked me out of the room. And I said, listen, I've got to go. I got to catch a plane to go back to Georgia. And, I want to spend as much time with her as I can. She said, listen, you can't stay in the room, but I'll let you come in every few minutes to check on her and say. So literally every 10 minutes I was in and out of the room. I'd leave, like go into the lobby, I'd come back, I'd go in the room. I'd talk to her. And she was doing fine. What I didn't know was right before somebody passes, I guess they call it the final gift, or they'll rally for you. It's almost like they know you're there. And she knew I was there. So I had to get on the plane. I had to come back. But I felt good. I'm like, Krista, her birthday was coming up. I'll see you. Matter of fact, I'll see you in a few weeks. Right. And this is the other thing. Fred and I talked about, she was in a group home and she had finally gotten back into the group home. And because she hurt her leg, and she was, and that's what put her in the hospital. She had to go into, I guess, like a nursing home. And then she went into the hospital. And yeah, as you know, nursing homes, there's, elderly and they get sick. And she was always susceptible to getting sick. So she went from there to the hospital. Well, she was scheduled to go back to the group home. I didn't want her to go back to the group home. While I was in the hospital with her, Fred and I talked, and I said, I'm taking her back to Georgia with me. Let's get her better. She's come back to Georgia with me. And Fred's like, oh my gosh, she's going to love that. What I didn't know at the time, like I said, was her symptoms and her signs and her breathing better was all part of was her rallying for me. She let me know that she knew I was there. And again, part of my healing is I found out that it was her final gift. So, didn't know this at the time. I had to get on the plane and come back, and I felt good about leaving her. I really did, or I wouldn't have left. I go into the room, and I say goodbye to her. And I remember squeezing her fat little foot. And she had a fat little foot. I remember squeezing her fat little foot and walking out. And telling her I love her and I'll be home. I'll be back. Got on the plane, came back to Georgia. Slept like a rock that night. I came back and I was like, and I loved, at the time I was working for a company called American Home here in Macon, Georgia. And they were absolutely instrumental in my healing. And I loved what I did. Man, I loved my job. Loved my job. So, ready to get up, and I was going to work next day. My ex is like, you're going to work? I'm like, hell yeah, Chris is good. I felt good about leaving. I really did. About 6:30 that morning, I get a phone call from Fred, and he says that Krista went into cardiac arrest. But they revived her. And he says, I'm on the way to the hospital now. I was like, okay. So doing cardiac arrest, I said they revived her. I guess they revived her. They brought her out of it, and she was fine at the moment. But Fred's on the way to the hospital. I did go into work a little bit late. I was still a little tired. I was driving across town. I'm about 7 minutes from my job. I walked into American Home, and I walked into my office, and I was saying hey to everybody. My phone went off, and it was Fred, and said that Krista had passed. She went to cardiac arrest again. and they couldn't pull her out this time. I let out a blood-curdling scream. I screamed. I wailed. I dropped to my knees. And then I had to figure out how I was going to get home because I had to go. And I did. I got myself in my car and I drove home. And it seemed like it took forever because, I don't know, it didn't seem like it was my life I was living at that moment. It was almost like I was in like a Lifetime movie or something, if that makes sense. I couldn't believe I'm like, how does this happen to me? And I read about this stuff. I watch it on TV. How does this even happen? Well, I got back to the house. I took a handful of sleeping pills and I went to sleep. I didn't know what else to do. I was crying and I didn't mean to take a handful, but I took a couple. I mean, it wasn't enough to do damage, but I took a couple. I didn't know what else to do but go to sleep. Of course, I spoke to my ex, and Brian's like, I'll be there as soon as I can get there. I didn't tell anybody else. I wasn't ready to tell anybody else. I slept for a couple hours. I wake up to Brian above me, and he's like, you need to wake up. He says, we got a problem. Now, my family didn't know. My friends didn't know. Even my employers didn't know. Some people at work knew because I said, I got to go. I woke up, and I'm going to be explicit. My motherfucking ex put it all over fucking social media. These motherfuckers, you don't have time to even breathe. And that's what I hate about social media. It should be my mourning process, my grief, me catching my breath was taken away from me because people, it becomes about them again. And I'd like to say that I'm not angry because people do what they need to do at this moment. But sometimes they forget about everybody else. But it is what it is at this point. My mom didn't even know. My mom found out on social media. I'm sure Fred told Charlie. My friends didn't know. My sister didn't know. Everybody found out because of posts on Facebook. This stupid fucking moron. So I didn't get a chance to even catch my breath. So what happens next? Chris's body wasn't going to make it. So they sped up the funeral. We had her cremated. My ex, again, it became about him. He did a open casket viewing the night before her funeral. I flew into New Jersey again. My sister Ginger met me there. I didn't want to see my daughter in the coffin, so I didn't go. I didn't have to. Sometimes it's okay not to see them like that. And I'm not. As much as I'm angry about what Fred did, everybody grieves differently and everybody has to do things differently. So if that's what he chose to do, that's what he chose to do. Ginger and I didn't go. My son had flown in from California. Ginger and I didn't go to the funeral, or to the viewing. Next day, I went to the funeral. It was a very Catholic, very private, very small funeral for Krista. I remember Charlie turned to take her away. And I grabbed his arm and I asked him not to. And he just looked at me broken because he had to. Now we had her cremated. Her ashes, which is something I didn't know Catholics believed in, because I lost control of this whole thing. I just didn't have the energy to fight this. I will say, if I was dating the same guy that I'm dating, my ex Brian did an amazing job for me. But if I was dating the same guy that I'm dating now, back then, it would have been a different story. I mean, this man I'm dating now would have fought for me. And Brian just didn't know what to do. That's really what it came down to. But we had her cremated, and I believed it. I don't want her buried. We had her cremated, and somewhere in the line, my ex goes, picks up her ashes, and, to be honest with you, I don't even know where ashes are. To this day, I don't know where they are. So you have to believe that there's more than just ashes in an urn, because he's a fucktard, and I'm literally trying not. It's just when tragedy happens, it brings out. You'll see who people really are. I'm not speaking bad about. I shouldn't speak bad about Fred, because he did what he thought was best. But I don't know where her ashes are, and let him. I, I don't know. He has to live with himself. Okay, so here we are. She was cremated. My sister was so instrumental in getting me by. I mean, I don't even know how I smiled some days. She made me smile. Um, I flew back into Georgia and I worked. So let me tell you about my journey. I cried every morning. I cried every afternoon. I cried in the evening. I mean, all I did was cry. I'd be at work and I'd cry. I'd be at the supermarket and I'd cry. And I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't post on social media because it's tough to talk about. As you can tell, even me, years later, there's no time limit on grief. You can't stop grieving. You don't know when you're going to stop grieving. The truth is, you don't stop grieving. You're not the same person. I wasn't the same person I was, a year ago, a year before it happened. I wasn't, her birthday came in August 2019, and I had changed so much in just 30 days. I was so wrapped up in me, in my grief. And all I could do was, I drank. I did drugs. I loved the drugs. Figured out a way to sleep and how to exist. That's how I got by. In my grieving in the beginning, I forgot that my son had lost his sister. My parents have lost a grandchild. My siblings had lost their niece. I forgot all that. I lost my faith. I lost my reason to get up in the morning. I developed an eating disorder because everything I did was, I felt guilty about. And even the simple joys in life, like eating. And my daughter loved to eat. I mean, she loved food. She loved to be in the kitchen. She loved to help out. So every time I was sitting down and I'd have a meal, or I'd say, man, this is a really good sandwich, or this is a really good steak, I felt guilty because knowing that my daughter would never ever experience that again. And then I realized I would never see her again. The only time I would ever see her would be in my dreams if I dreamt about her. I believe in the beginning she used to come to me a lot. I believe that my grief was so strong and so overwhelming that I think I saw her a lot. I think I saw her more sometimes than I even do now. And I think she stopped coming because it hurt so bad. And I apologize to her for that. I lost my faith. There's no way in hell we have a God that would take away a child from a mother. It just doesn't make sense. I struggled with the eating disorder. I lost so much weight. Matter of fact, my my boss flew in and sat with me, and he's like, I don't know what's going on with you. He said, but we're gonna get you fixed. He said, because I can't have somebody running one of my locations that's kind of, you didn't call me crazy, but just kind of like, what's up, girl? Because you're not right. They were so worried about me. My company was so worried about me that they paid for me to go see a psychiatrist. And I believed I could fight this all on my own. I believed I didn't need medication. I believed I'll pull myself out of it. It probably been about 6, maybe 8 months later, and I was on a steady decline. I mean, the only thing I had was my job. I mean, screw the house, screw everything else. I didn't care about relationships. I didn't care about anything. It was just my house, or it was just my job. And so I'd work 6 days a week, 7 days a week if they let me. And I was going to bed, and my phone went off, and it was my son. He had sent me a text message, and he says, "Mom, I miss Krista." And at that moment, I realized my son lost a sister. I've been so wrapped up in me and so selfish at that time that I forgot about him. And then I forgot about my parents and them losing their granddaughter, their only granddaughter. And my siblings losing their niece, their only niece. And I started coming out of it a little bit. In my journey, in the next 6 months, we're coming up on our first year anniversary of her passing. In my journey of her, in the next 6 months, I met some incredible people. Man, did I meet some incredible people. And I realized that I knew there was other people out there that had suffered, that had lost a child, because I wasn't the only one experiencing this. But I didn't realize how many there was. And nobody can tell you how to get over grieving, because there's no way you can. You're not the same person. And once you accept that, you're good. Once you accept that, I'm not the same person as I was when I'm the same person when my daughter was alive. I'm not the same person. In some ways, I'm better. In some ways, she's made me better. I hate to say the loss of her has made me better, but it's made me different. And I say better in some ways. I'm much more empathetic. I mean, man, I'm called a sissy because I am sissy. I cry all the time, and I'm okay with crying. And as I cry all the time, I'm emotional. And I never had these kinds of emotions before. I'm overly attached to my dogs, my animals. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm just going to say that, they have dogs out there that are, emotional support dogs, and I absolutely understand why, because mine are, definitely are a big part of my everyday life. And a lot of people don't understand that. I don't have any advice how to go on after you lose a daughter or after you lose a child, but there's no advice. Just do what you need to do. Do what you have to do to get through it, and that's all you can do. Nobody's ever going to understand it. And I've had some people tell me, and this always makes me raise an eyebrow. But I had people tell me before, when you're talking about it, and they've lost somebody that was special to them. That had been, they've lost a child that was around for 12 years. I said, well, I lost my child at 12 years. You had yours for 27. I don't think there's a time on that. I think if you have them for a day, you have them for 27 years, it doesn't matter. I know there's people that have lost children that they never got to know. They've had stillborns. You're still grieving. So whether it's, 30 seconds, 30 days, 30 years, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You can't put a time limit on grief, or how long somebody's in your life to grieve. That's not right. And people can't tell you, that it's time to get over it. because there's no time to get over it. You don't get over it. You live with it. You cope. You do what you need to do. And that's what I learned. I did lose my faith. I hated God. I hated the idea of God. I hated, there's no way that this would happen. A year later, I called my priest up in Vermont and spoke with him. And one thing he told me, and my father said this to me many years ago, but he said it as well, is that my pain is felt by others, and what makes my pain worse than anybody else's, and damn it, it was my pain. That's why it's worse than anybody else's, because this is my pain I'm suffering. And he told me our God's a sad God. He's suffering beside me. He's crying beside me. And Krista was, from the moment, there's nothing you can do. You have a lot of guilt because maybe if you could have, you should have, things may have been different. The truth of the matter is that from the moment we're born, we can't change our destiny. Heaven forbid, I may pass away tomorrow, maybe today. I may live to be 900 years old, but I doubt it. But there's nothing I could do to change it. I couldn't have done anything different for Krista. I couldn't have done. There's still so much grief, but from before Krista was born, her life was predetermined, or how long she was going to be around. And there's nothing I could do about it. So tomorrow, it's going to be 6 years. And I don't have big parties. I don't post it on social media because I just don't. I talk about it when I want to talk about it. I realize that I used to spend every day crying. I'd break down in tears throughout the day. And then as time went on, I designated time for Krista. So almost every morning still I get up, and I'm saying almost every morning. If there's 7 days in a week, 6 out of the 7, I get up and Krista and I have a conversation every morning. And I say, okay, Krista, I've got to spend the rest of my day. I got to work. You and I will talk later. Where before I used to talk to her and cry and cuss at her and hate my existence without her. But now I designate some time just to mourn her or celebrate her, however you want to look at it. And tomorrow, I may talk about her to others who want to listen. If I can give anybody any advice, don't stop talking about your loved ones, whether it's your child or, it's anybody you've ever lost. It doesn't, your grief is yours and you can own it. And then nobody can ever tell you when to get over it, how to get over it. Except the fact you're not going to be the same person that you were. And I don't care what you have to do to get over it. Do it. Embrace your animals, embrace your, I had to come up with hobbies to stay off the drugs. I'll be honest with you. But it's all worked in my favor. Man, I'm a hell of an artist. I've written a couple books. I had to come up with outlets that were healthy for me besides like I said, besides lines of cocaine and lots of whiskey. And, that's where I'll say, animals, my dog got me through all of that because I was alone a lot. And I chose that. Don't let anybody tell you that you have to get over it. There's a time limit. Do what you got to do. And for those who've never lost somebody, listen. If somebody's talking to you, just stop and listen. That's all I ever asked. On June 30th was the day that we sedated Krista. And on June 30th, I go through a lot of guilt, even now to this day, and after I've accepted it. And I just want to talk. So when I come to somebody and I just want to say, hey, let's talk for 5 minutes, I want to tell you what I'm thinking. The same story I told you last year, the same story I told you last week. I just want you to listen. And I know that that's the way it is for everybody. If we're talking, let us talk. Faith is so important, and it's so tough to believe in something you can't see. But I believe now more than ever that, energy is around and it's not lost. There's no way. I mean, we're supernatural beings. We're absolutely amazing. And the fact that life is absolutely perfect for us to even exist. Gravity has to be perfect in order for us to stay right here on this earth. There's just so much more than what we know. And so, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in anything, you have to believe in the fact that we're miracles. And there's more to us than just a shell of a body. So what happens when we're gone? Did we just go? There's no way that our energy doesn't exist. I believe fully that our energy is still there. And Krista's energy is still here. I mean, I still feel her. And she's, especially when I look for her. But the little things, I still can hear her laughter. I can still smell her hair. Now, one last thing before I finish this up, because I'd like to share some of the funniest things she's ever done. So, I had an Amazon account, and Krista was in a group home, and Krista and Charlie both had access to it. Charlie's always been responsible, and he'd get on there. He always said, "Mom, I'm going to order this. I need this for school." And Krista order stuff. Believe me, she did have special needs, but she was also a lot smarter than I ever gave her credit for. Just because special needs doesn't mean that it didn't mean that she couldn't do a lot of things. She actually excelled in a lot of things. So Krista had access to my Amazon account. Charlie had access to it, and Charlie and Krista would both order whatever they wanted, and it wasn't a big deal. Anyways, I get a notice that Krista had ordered something off Amazon, and Krista had ordered a box of 500 number 2 pencils. 500 number 2 pencils were delivered to her group home. That was 500 number 2 yellow pencils Krista ordered. Man, I got so mad at her. I had no idea where this girl needed 500 pencils. And it didn't cost much. I think it was like $30, maybe $40. And I shut her off from the account because I was so mad. She was so mad at me. And she got on Facebook and she blasted me. She's like, "Sabrina, I needed my pencils." And she called me Sabrina. But I'd do anything for her to order 500 more pencils again. She ordered 500 number 2 pencils. 500. Who needs 500 pencils? Well, I guess that's it. At least right now. I don't have any advice. I'm going to wrap it up and just say, don't put a time limit on your grief. And for those that are supporting somebody who's grieving, don't put a time limit on it. Don't force them to stop feeling. I want to say thank you to everybody who helped me. I want to say a special thank you to my family and my sister Ginger and American Home, who saw me through some of the worst time. I mean, that was my job. And if I didn't have them, I think I would have gone batshit crazy. I mean, they understood and they helped me. And I don't know what I'd ever do without them. Because healing's a process, and it's 6 years later, and I'm still processing it. And I apologize to my son and to my family and to my friends because, I lost my daughter, but they also suffered a loss, and I didn't know what else to do but take care of me at the time. I still feel her, and I still hear her. And every day I miss her. So tomorrow, it's Krista Day. And it's it's the anniversary of passing. And I guess it should be a celebration because some people believe she's in a better place than we are. And actually, 90% of the time, I believe that. I mean, she's kept me safe. I mean, she's kept me healthy and blessed. And sometimes people can do more for you there, up there, than they can here. As hard as that is to accept. So that's it. It's me, Sabrina, for Make It Make Sense. And Krista, I love you. And I miss you. And I know we all miss you. And I'll be back. I promise. I promise we'll be back. At least me.